everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about General Conference. We're getting really close to the April 2022 General Conference, and there's some interesting things about this conference. I've noticed a number of things. I don't know how significant they are, if at all, but I just want to show you kind of what I'm thinking about as we approach this general conference. Starting with the church symbol on the church's Facebook page, they just changed it to a new color, purple. And I want to go over, so let me give you the breakdown of what I want to cover in this video. So I want to talk about the church's profile picture, the history of it on Facebook. I want to go over Shmita years and Jewish feast days. I also want to talk about the priesthood and women's sessions. I want to talk about the month of Nisan and Passover, as well as a recent post on Facebook by Neil L. Anderson. But also I want to go over all the most recent posts by the general authorities, and then just point out some interesting details. Okay, so that's basically what we're going to be talking about. So let's just start with this right here. So there's been discussion on the channel, mostly in the comments section, about how the colors have been changing for the church symbol on the church website, on their Facebook page, and it really, I don't know what to think of it. It really could just be arbitrary. It may just be a new thing that they're doing, or it may not. There might be significance. You can see over here in the comment section, there's somebody that says that purple symbolizes royalty, and hopefully, everybody knows that. The reason why is because in ancient times, creating purple dye, it was hard. It wasn't as easy as as making dyes for other colors. It was the ingredients were more scarce, hard to find, etc. So only the richest and those who were royal could afford to wear purple. So it's associated with royalty. Which, that might bring to mind for some of you, oh, okay, you have Christ here, there's purple in the background, Christ is going to be king of the world during the millennium, and so could this be like a foreshadowing of that? I don't know, I sure hope so, but I don't know. Okay, so I want to look actually at the history of the church's profile picture, which actually kind of fascinated me a little bit. I found it interesting when I was looking into it. This is it right here. These are all the profile pictures that they have used on Facebook since they created this account. So now Facebook has been operating since 2004, but it seems to me, and I'm just basing this off my own experience, I don't think that I joined Facebook until something like maybe 2008 or something like that, and I think that's when it really started to take off. Before that point, there were a lot of people that were on MySpace, which it's my understanding that they're still around. Let's take a look. Is there still such thing as MySpace? MySpace, featured content on MySpace. Yeah, it's still here. I don't know anybody that uses it. Do you? Are you on MySpace? That's cool. That's cool if you are. Anyway, so let's go to the first profile picture. And this is September 18th, 2009. So this is about a year after I created my Facebook profile. And let me zoom in. This is the Suva Fiji temple. And then they have up here a thing that kind of looks like the missionary badge. And then down at the bottom, excuse me, the official Facebook page of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I don't know why it's this shape or up and down. I don't know if like the profile page or like your profile picture on your homepage was structured differently back then. I don't remember it being like that, but I might have a bad memory. Okay, And then we move to September 21st, 2009, and it's the same thing. It looks like the size might be a little bit different. So, I mean, that's it. Okay, now, 3 years later, December 22nd, 2011, they changed it to a picture of Christ, which is really good. And that's just 3 days before Christmas, so maybe that's kind of what prompted it, is Christmas was coming up, and hey, let's do this. All right, so that's 2011. And then a day later, it changes to this, the up and down, type. Okay, and then after that, we are in March 18th, 2012, and it has the conference center. It says, "Come listen to living prophets," and that's what you got for there. Okay, and then in 2017, that important year where so many different things happened. The embassy moved to Jerusalem. The U.S. embassy moved to Jerusalem. It was Donald Trump's first year in office. It was the Hebrew year 5777, which they viewed as an important year. It was the year of the Great American Eclipse. It was also the year that we had the first observed object in space that came from outside of our solar system, which I've done a video on that. It's called the Muamua, and I tend to think that it might be one of the signs and wonders in the heavens that's talked about in the scriptures. Not like a specific thing, but just go watch that video if you're interested in that. But here you see it's changed to the name of the church, and then you have the design in the background that's like these, I don't know how to describe it, like these lines that are at different angles, kind of resembling light, like beams of light, different, so you have this. Okay, now want to point out though that this is that background that came out before the new church symbol was released. So this was already like a design element that they were using before the church symbol came on the scene. But okay, so this is 2017, December 15th, which is interesting because that's also before Christmas. I don't know, that just might be coincidence. This one, obviously, going back, this one with the conference center, this was just a little bit before conference, so that kind of makes sense. So you have changes before Christmas. You have changes before General Conference. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, now, April 4th, 2020, that really landmark conference, you have the change of the profile picture to the new church symbol, minus the cornerstone element at the bottom, the cornerstone that has the name of the church in it. It's just the arch with Christ in it. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. This is just a little detail, but in this initial profile picture, let me see if I can, I can't zoom in. It won't let me actually zoom in on the picture. Well, anyway, you might notice there is more like cross-hatching here than what we're going to see in just a minute. Cross-hatching is these lines right here. It's like a technique with illustration, printing, stuff like that, where if you want to have just like one color, in this case white, but you still want to have the appearance of shading and different details, then you use the cross-hatching technique. So just notice here, especially like in the face, like along the bridge of the nose right here, in the cheek area, there's cross-hatching. Okay, so anyway, April 4th, they unveiled the new church symbol, and here it is. Okay, now we move on to November 20th, 2020, so later that year. This time it's after conference, okay? And I can't make this any larger, unfortunately, but I think even with this view, you can tell that there's like no cross-hatching. they do away with that. So basically, they go to like a more simplified version of the church symbol, and then they change the color to green. Okay, so this is on November 20th, 2020. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Now they change it back, and this is only 10 days later. So it was green for 10 days, and then it goes back to blue. And this new blue version, it also has the simplified version without the cross hatching. There's no cross hatching whatsoever. So I don't know if this coincided with when President Nelson asked us to do the 7 days of giving thanks. Let's take a look at that. President Nelson give thanks. Oops. When was that? Okay, yeah, the date of this YouTube video is November 20th, 2020. So they changed the color. They changed the color of the church's profile picture to green, and it seems like that coincides and was because of the give thanks. Although it was up, instead of just being up for 7 days, it was up for 10 days, and then it goes back to blue. So that's kind of interesting. So there was significance to this, right? I don't know why green. I don't know if there's like anything behind that. If you like have any understanding of like color symbolism or color meanings, if you can think of why they would have had green during that time of thanks, then put that in the comments below. Okay, now I don't know exactly what happens here, but okay, so here's our November 30th, 2020, and then we go to March 1st, 2021. That's just like a month before conference, and it's still the same. And I've gone back and forth between these two, the November 30th and then the March 1st profile pictures, and I don't see anything at all. There's like absolutely no difference. Now, I suppose what could have happened is in between that time, there may have been some other profile picture, and then they decided to delete it. And I guess that could be the case with all of these. All the ones that are still here may not be representative of the total number that they have had. Maybe there's some that they've deleted for whatever reason. That I don't know. But anyway, so March 1st, this is just like a month before conference. And then later that year, after conference, after October General Conference, and it looks like at about the time of Thanksgiving, or maybe a couple days after Thanksgiving, it changes to red. At least like this bottom portion here is red, and then you could say that these the top part, these are like shades of red. It's kind of like pinkish, but the bottom part is like solidly red. And we've talked about that on the channel. The big thing with red, of course, red is a big color for Christ because it represents blood, and that's why when he comes down during the second coming, he's going to be clothed in red. It's supposed to be symbolic of that, the blood that he shed, the atonement. So there was like a lot of kind of like talk and speculation about this, like, oh, is this like a sign that the second coming is soon? Which I don't know necessarily that they would do that, but I don't know. It could just be that they wanted to change it red for Christmas, but I don't know. It's interesting that it changed, just a month after conference. It feels like a lot of these profile picture changes happen either before or after conference, like within 30 days before or within 30 days after. Okay, and now here we are as of right now. This was 1 day ago. Now it's changed to purple. And I think it has to do with conference because conference, as of right now, it's only 1 to 3 days away. So I think it has to do with conference. It's a color that we haven't really seen before on the Facebook page. Don't know if there's any significance to it, but let me show you some other significant things about this conference that may indicate that this actually is significant, that this goes along with other things going on with this conference. So the first thing to point out probably would be this. I've done a video on this before. I put together a spreadsheet where I've tracked. Okay, so this is what you're looking at, okay? Column C, this column right here, this is the day of the month that first fruits lands on for that year. So this year, it's landing on the 17th of April, okay? Easter, the Western Christian, this is not the Orthodox day, the Eastern Orthodox day for Easter. This is the Western tradition. Easter, in the day that it falls on, is in column D. So if you look down here, you can see that not every year is first fruits on the same day as Easter. Easter is essentially the Christian observance of first fruits, but not in the same way that Jews celebrate first fruits. We're celebrating the fulfillment of first fruits with Christ being resurrected, right? And so it's Easter. It's Easter, but they're corresponding holidays or observances, right? So when it's red like this, it means that there's not a match. So in 2025, they will match. In 2023, they will match. This year, they match. Okay. Now, column E over here, this is tracking. It's tracking Pesach, which is the Passover week. Okay. So let's go to our Hebrew calendar right here. You see right here on April 16th, it says Pesach 1. This is the first day, like the first full day of the Passover week. Okay, so which is actually the entire week is referred to the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The Passover meal or the Passover feast happens the day before Pesach, but they consider it part of Pesach 1 because their day starts at sunset. It ends and it starts at sunset. So on this day, on Friday, this is when they have the Passover meal after sunset, which is the start of Pesach 1. And then the first Sunday after the first Sabbath during this time is first fruits. So in this case, because the Sabbath or Saturday is on the 16th, then the next day, Sunday, the 17th, is first fruits. And that's the third feast. So the Passover feast, the first fruits feast, and then the entire thing is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So there's like 3 feasts that are associated with this this period. Okay, so now every year this kind of changes up. It doesn't necessarily stay the same. Some days Pesach 1 will be on Thursday, or some years it'll be on Thursday. Some years it'll be on Wednesday. Some years, so it could fall any day of the week. Okay, now what I'm interested in is this configuration here, because this is how it was when Christ was crucified, when he did the atonement, where Pesach 1 was on the Sabbath, and then first fruits was on, well, first fruits is always on a Sunday, but, okay, so you'll see here that on Friday, right? Friday was the day that he was crucified. This is also the same day that you slaughter the lamb, right? And then later that night you have the meal. So that's how Christ fulfilled this whole thing. So he was literally slaughtered. He was crucified on this day, and then on the Sabbath for the rest of Friday, and then on the Sabbath he was in the spirit world, and then on the third day, on first fruits, that's when he resurrected. So you see how it like matches up, how he literally fulfilled these things. These were supposed to be not only a remembrance of the original Passover in Egypt, but it was also supposed to be a foreshadowing of when Christ, the Messiah, would come, and he fulfilled this. So it was like a remembrance, but also you could say like a prophecy or something that was going to happen in the future. Okay, so you get it now. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. So I tracked all the years where it was in that configuration when Pesach 1 is on Saturday. Okay, and it just so happens that this year is one of those years. 2021 and 2020 were not. 2019 and 2018 were. 2017 was not. So see how that goes. Now the final thing is you have Shmita years. And Shmita years happen once every 7 years. Another name for it is a sabbatical year. It's basically, if you were like looking at years as though they were days, then you have 6 years of work and then a 7th year of rest called a Shmita. And during that year in the land of Israel, they don't do any agricultural work. And that's what's happening right now. This starts on Rosh Hashanah, okay? So Rosh Hashanah happened last year. Well, it happens every year, but the Shmita started last year in 2021 on September, where is it? On September 6th, right? It says Erev Rosh Hashanah, but again, like I said before, their days start at sundown. So technically it started on Monday, September 6th of last year. That's when their Rosh Hashanah is their new year. Even though they consider it the 7th month of the year, that's when the date changes. And okay, so this is when the Shmita started, and we are still going to be in that Shmita year until September 25th of this year. That's when the Shmita year is going to end. So what we have going on this year is really kind of rare. It's rare. We have first fruits and Easter matching up. This year's Pesach is in the same configuration as the time of Christ, the week of Christ when he was crucified, and it's a Shmita year. So this is represented by this dark green coloring. The last time that this happened was in 2015. Okay, but before 2015, you have to go way back to 1938. Okay, so it is not at all common. Before 1938, you go back to 1924, and then 1917, and then I don't have it calculated further back beyond 1900, which I may do in the future. Okay, so it's rare. We're in a rare time right now when you're looking at these parameters. It's rare. So this is going to be, aside from last October, which was during this Shmita year, this is going to be the last conference of the Shmita year. And what's interesting to me, now we're going to start talking about the number 17. This has come up on the channel before. Notice here that this is happening on the 17th. Okay, first fruits and Easter are on the 17th. Now, 17, I'm more and more starting to think that there's some kind of significance behind it. We just talked about the year 2017 and all the things that happened during that year. So you have that. You also have the fact that, so here are all the presidents of the church, right? The history of them. This is on the church website, on the newsroom. When you come down here to President Nelson, it just so happens that he is the 17th president of the church. Okay, he's the 17th president of the church. And then, as a side note, he became a member of the 12 April 7th. Interesting that there's a 7 there. April 7th of 1984. That's the same year that construction of the BYU Jerusalem Center started. So that is just a side note. But anyway, he's the 17th president of the church. When you go to their social media, gosh, freaking notifications. When you go to their social media, they are following 17 other pages, and those pages are actually now, of course, these are not like their personal Facebooks. They may not even have a personal Facebook. This is like their official Facebook pages, but they're following each other, of course. Hey, I should be following D. Todd Christofferson. What the heck? They're following each other, as well as the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, Come Unto Christ, and then the church, the official church's page. Okay, so it's interesting that number, it adds up to 17, and it's the same way on their Twitter. So 17 is just like, it's all over the place. I think we've come across it some other times, but that's not the point of this video. I just kind of want to point that out. Okay, so we have this kind of special year, first fruits Easter matching up. The Friday equals the Passover, so the Passover meal is on Friday, and then it's a Shmita year. The next time that we're going to see this is in 2029. Okay, and then look at all these in between 2029 and now. We're not going to have any more Pesach weeks where the Sabbath is on, or the first day is on Saturday. See, it's just no. Okay, so it's interesting. Okay, now we brought up how this coming conference, the women's session, is going to be in the Saturday evening slot, which, to my knowledge, that's a first. I put this together where essentially, okay, so what you had before 2015, you pretty much always had the priesthood session in the Saturday evening slot, and then you'd have the women's session, but it was like at a different time during the year. And then what they started to do was, okay, what did they do? They had, I think, the women's session starting in 2015. They had the women's session. I think that was like on Friday, and then the rest of conference would be like normal. The priesthood session was the Saturday evening session, right? So they pulled in the women's conference and basically made it part of conference. Like, not that it wasn't before, but like within the same 3-day period, right? And then what they did is in 2018, they just had the priesthood session in April, and then the women's session in October. And then the next year, it was the same thing. Now, the April 2020 General Conference, where the church symbol was introduced, we did the Hosanna shout. There was the proclamation. What's it called? Proclamation of the Restoration? Proclamation. The Restoration Proclamation. We had that same year. So it would make sense that they, instead of having a separate women or priesthood session, it was joint for the evening session. Okay. And then it continued the pattern, women in October, priesthood in April, and then last year, the last conference, there was a joint. There was another joint session for the Saturday evening session. Now, what's happening is women is in April, which that's breaking the pattern of before, where it was priesthood in April and then women in October. And you may see that as just arbitrary, or oh, they're just No, I think it may be significant. It seems like there's more and more talk of like the significance of women in the latter days as we approach the millennium. And one of the best examples of that is the Sisters of Zion talk by President Eyring, where he was talking about how critical they're going to be in creating the society in the lead up to the second coming, a society that he compared two times in the talk to the city of Enoch. So really, really significant. So it may be that there's not really a pattern anymore. It may just be that they're choosing to do it as needed. Maybe it's going to go back to just like having joint sessions. Maybe the pattern now is going to be women in April, priesthood in October. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see. But this upcoming conference is significant because this is something that we haven't seen before. Okay. All right. Now, the last thing that I want to point out is I saw this, like I don't know, like a day or two ago. Elder Neil L. Anderson, he posted on his page this message that he shared for the October 2020 General Conference. And basically, it's just like giving you three suggestions of how to prepare for conference. So, what I think about with that is, I don't think that he's just like being lazy and it's like, oh, I got to do something because conference is coming up. I'll just reshare them. No, I think that he might be adding emphasis or really wanting us to think about this upcoming conference. This might be a special conference. There might be something that happens out of the ordinary with this, on top, aside from the women's conference being in April. So I would encourage you to go watch this on Facebook. Follow his suggestions of what to do. Before that, still in March, he did this post about him getting married to his wife. And I noticed something here. There's a few general authorities here that do this, that have done this recently. So you have Neil L. Anderson talking about his marriage. And think about marriage in the symbolic sense or in the scriptural sense when we're talking about the second coming, how it's being compared to a marriage, right? Christ is the bridegroom, the church is the bride, and so it's being compared to a marriage. And that's what's happening as well in the parable of the 10 virgins. They're waiting for a marriage to start. They're waiting for the bridegroom. So you have this imagery from Neil L. Anderson on the 20th, and then a short time after that, 7 days later, he shares this to like, hey, this is what I recommend that you do to prepare for a conference. Okay, and then President Nelson, this is back in February, so he hasn't done one too recently. He also does a thing about his marriage, right? He talks about him and Dancel, right, and how her loss was unexpected, and then he talks about the blessing of having Wendy now as a companion, which again, I don't want to rub anybody the wrong way, but it's kind of putting it out there that he has two eternal companions, right? But it's also putting out there the fact that this kind of marriage kind of idea, this symbolism. Okay, and then we move on to Dallin H. Oaks, and he says some kind of interesting things here. He says, I'm not going to zoom in, just listen. We live in challenging times, wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes, tornadoes, tsunamis, and the prospects of financial disaster. So this is second coming talk in language. These are things that are associated with the second coming, the signs of the times. More important values and standards honored for thousands of years are now being denied or cast aside. Interesting that he brings up thousands of years because we think about the next 1,000 years, which is the millennium. Selfishness is replacing service. Evil is being called good, and good is being called evil. in that, I would say that includes members of our church. I hate to say that, but there are so many members that are being deceived, that are being seduced by these different worldly philosophies, and they're falling into this trap. And then down here, he talks about cherish and use your opportunities for creation in eternal marriage. So there's another marriage reference, right? As he's talking about in the beginning of this, talking about the signs of the times. Henry B. Eyring, I didn't see anything relevant that, to this video that I'm doing, but he shares a good message there. We have M. Russell Ballard, same thing. He just talks about the importance of receiving an education so that you can secure work and an income for yourself. Jeffrey R. Holland, he's talking about his visit to West Point. I was going to do a video on that, but there just wasn't really enough there that pertains to this channel. So, okay, then you have Dieter F. Uchtdorf. He addresses what's going on right now in Ukraine, and then says that he can understand because he himself was a refugee during World War II. He references the two great commandments, which is something that I feel has come up a lot recently. But you have him talking about the two great commandments. Elder Bendar, nothing really here. He's talking about some temples and stuff, but nothing pertaining to this channel right now. Elder Cook, he was with some other faiths, talking about freedom of religion and stuff. We have D. Todd Christofferson. He's bringing up the two great commandments, right? So here's like another example right here, the two great commandments. So he brings that up. And then we have Ronald A. Rasband. And just by the way, these are all the most recent posts. So that's what we're looking at here. Okay, Ronald A. Rasband, he says, we are living in perilous and troubled times. Ancient prophets spoke of our day, knowing of the anger, rage, and calamity to come. Then down here, quote, but my disciples shall stand in holy places and shall not be moved. Be not troubled, for when all these things shall come to pass, ye may know that the promises which have been made unto you shall be fulfilled. End quote. In this promise from the Lord, I am struck and reminded by the important words, stand in holy places. And then down here he says, if we stand in holy places, specifically our homes, our chapels, and God's temples, we need not be troubled. So this is like another second coming type message, right? Gary Stevenson, there wasn't really anything from that one. Elder Del G. Renlund, he's talking about the Book of Mormon, but down here he's talking about he talks about preparatory to the second coming of Messiah. He's quoting from the Book of Mormon, the first part. So he brings up the second coming. Not much here from Garrett W. Gong. Ulysses Soares. Now look at this. He is doing a marriage thing. Okay, this is March 11th. So don't think that these are all like Valentine's things, because they're not. Elder Anderson's, his was March 20th, so that was after Valentine's. President Nelson's, it was on Valentine's. Now talking about Elder Soares, this is on March 11th, okay? He's talking about marriage. He had to be married civilly first before he could do the temple, and that's because of a legal requirement, I guess, in Brazil. But what's interesting here, especially in light of what we've been talking about recently on the channel, is look at this. Okay. The day of our civil marriage, we posed in front of a window together as newlyweds and had a picture taken together. We thought about that picture as we walked around the church building. So he was married in a church building. And then we had a great idea. Wouldn't it be fun to recreate that picture taken many years ago? The original archway, right? We've been talking a lot about Roman arches and symbolism of the arch and stuff. the original archway had been torn down and reconstructed, but we were able to find a nearby window with the same arch-like structure. We carefully studied the picture and mimicked our positions. Our good friends Jonathan and Jen were kind enough to take the picture for us. What a beautiful memory. So, and here's the picture. So, it's awesome. It's a good-looking couple. So, it's just really cool. There's a lot of kind of cool things to think about here. A lot of marriage imagery, and who knows, it may not mean anything, but I just find it kind of odd that there's a bunch of them talking about marriage in their own marriages. And then you got the 17s, right? And then we got the Shmita year and the women's session for the Saturday night, or the Saturday evening, oh my gosh, the Saturday evening slot. We got the 17s for first fruits and Easter this year. This is a Shmita year. This is the last conference talk of this Shmita year. And then we have the church changing its profile picture to purple, which, you know, there's not a lot of history here of the church changing its profile picture, unless they've deleted other ones for some reason. So there you have it. I'm excited for conference. I'm excited to revisit this. I'm going to update every single one of these phrases on the phrase tracker. I am very interested to see what kind of things will come up this year, and I invite you to do the same. If something, if you notice any phrases or anything that I don't have on the tracker, let me know. Listen for phrases during this next conference, and we can always add to this. But you know, the trend is that you know, it's been quiet, relatively quiet since the 70s when it comes to Second Coming talk and things that have to do with preparing the world and all that stuff. And the last few years, it's just been on fire when it comes to these topics. So my prediction is that this trend is probably going to continue until the time of the Second Coming, and I don't think that time is too far off. So, all right, that's it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions and anything that stuck out to you, additional information in the comments below. Also, make sure to share this with anyone that is looking forward to conference and, you know, might just need a little bit more, or maybe looking for a little bit more information about this conference and why it could be special. And I'll talk to you guys later.